If you're going to start on a map where a fire can be played, Jackie's going to start out on it. So Cyclone coupling, tried and true here. Probably still the best fire in the region so far, and it's going to be up against the well-known quantity of the Jupiter 3-3.
We'll see Xiaoji as well again on that Sombra. Played it exceptionally well last week, one of the highlights of Cyclone's series. Ken Mohororo hacked out by Xiaoji and going to get absolutely drilled down by the other DPS. So Cyclone coupling off to a great start, get the wraparound on Samurai D as well. This is going to be a bit of a wash here. Jupiter already in full retreat. Whether or not they lose more members remains to be seen, but the point will go the way of Cyclone coupling.
The part of the problem here is you see Jupiter have just misread what Cyclone coupling were going to run out the gate. Samurai D notices that he's going to swap over to the Winston now. You see Sabagod going over to the Ana as well. Jupiter had expected Cyclone coupling to maybe start on the Goats as well. That's just not the case. If you've watched any Cyclone coupling game, you will know that's not the case.
I mean, they're playing more Goats this season than in the past, but this is still that team that loves to play anything but if they can so help it. Huge rocket barrage. Just catching Claire is more than enough there. Jackie does end up losing himself in that one. Red Fox can potentially commit a res.
It's probably a little bit of a dangerous area though. So the 1-for-1 trade actually not super efficient right now. Has to wait for the respawn. Also lost an ultimate there. Now relying on the EMP, which is going to be the next big tool.
Claire does come back to the fight a bit quicker after his respawn. Just through sheer merit of being a Lucio. That is a 6 sleep on Xiaoji, and that's with the tanks and Red Fox as well already being taken out of the picture. That was a pretty ideal fight for Jupiter when you consider how many ultimates Cyclone coupling had to work with.
Yeah, and definitely the opposite is entirely true for Cyclone coupling, right? Because Red Fox going down there, if that was the one death they could have prevented, Jackie comes back in time, the EMP comes into play. Cyclone coupling have a lot more ultimates to play with in general. That would have been their fight. They would continue progress on the point. Jupiter's take back, though, is going to give Ryu the opportunity now to use Graviton Surge.
Xiaoji, though, could put a spanner in. That work there with that EMP.
Turn that wrench, work that spanner.
Doesn't matter how many ultimates you have. When you've EMP'd, you've got no ultimates.
He's got to use it.
Taking some pain. Yeah, he's actually got to commit. That's a Valkyrie already out. There's the EMP at long last. He does catch Ryu. There's actually no defensive ultimate here, but Jupiter just kind of hunker down, sit tight, and now they can start throwing some ultimates into the mix. Good finish off on Jackie is a pretty important one. Rez is there. Now Luca pops a Primal Rage. This keeps a lot of members of Jupiter at bay, but it is GCGG who is the first casualty.
Jackie's ready.
They're really just throwing everything in the kitchen sink in this one now, Cyclone coupling, and Jupiter have yet to be dislodged really from this point.
They want to throw a little bit more than that. That should be another couple of kills.
That's the one that's going to do it. There were no tanks sitting tight to shield that one out. Jackie does go down, but the damage has already been done. And off the back of that, Cyclone coupling are looking to try and turn this one back around, but Eternal's down and Red Fox as well. So again, Jupiter have yet to be fully dislodged no matter how much Cyclone coupling throw at them.
And this is because Jupiter are able to just continually get these good counter trades. You see Jackie with the rocket barrage. Yes, he gets 2. He goes down again. Red Fox again goes in for the resurrection. Can't really get it, a little bit too dangerous. If Cyclone coupling had pushed in and really forced the spacing away from Jupiter, they would have been able to complete the res. But as it stands, it started out with a very hesitant EMP that can't be a repeat this time. Xiaoji needs to make sure this engages on point. Cyclone coupling need to make sure they can all get in there together.
There it is. Only catches 4, but they immediately drop Samurai Ds. They are off to a good start off that EMP. Trying to get on the back line against Sabagod. They will finish him off. GCGG's the one fragging out right now. And they're slowly but surely starting to mount the pressure on now. Keeping pressure on the point as well allows it to get flipped as the last few members of Jupiter are taking a dive.
And as you see, there's changes coming through as well. Cyclone coupling going on now, this basically 3-3 Goats, but with the Sombra on Xiaoji still. Jupiter responding, they're getting off some of the previous picks. Samurai D is back on the Rhine now. Sabagod's back on the Zenyatta now. There is realistically a couple of fights that Cyclone coupling still need to win, so they have to get this EMP back online very, very quickly if they want to have any chance. They need to defend against this Graviton Surge. They do have a Transcendence, and it must be used at the right time.
And that's the real important one. At least they've got that, but Xiaoji's already popped. It means even if they can hold on here, they don't charge that. There's going to be that grab, countered largely with the Transcendence, but Samurai D still threads the needle to find Red Fox. Only 1 counter trade so far, and Cyclone coupling just starting to hemorrhage members now. As Jupiter looking poised to re-grab, and as an extension of that, close out Gardens. It's just the last few picks up from Cyclone coupling.
Cyclone coupling are attempting to get something here, but they're off the point. It's been recapped. They're still waiting for respawners.
They'll stall it out for a little bit longer, largely thanks to Red Fox slipping through there, but the rest of these members are really struggling to actually get close to the point, let alone get on it. Barely stalling there with Xiaoji. That was about as down to the wire as it can get, but again, immediately dies. Jackie's not going to make it to the point. Luca on the Wrecking Ball. is essentially dead to rights. It feels like it is only a matter of time. Jupiter are in full control here and will close out Gardens.
Yeah, they have ultimates coming online as well. Cyclone Coupling don't have much to go on. You just see the poor timing of some of those deaths here. I said when Xiaoji goes down, that was not a good death. And for Cyclone Coupling, if anyone is going to go down, hopefully it's no one. But really, you need your Sombra alive because you need to get the EMP in there. If someone else went down and Xiaoji was alive, he would get the EMP in time. He would still get an EMP for their fight. There is some comeback potential. There's a way for Luca then to combo the Shatter in there if you can catch Samurai D, which likely does happen. There's so many more ways for Cyclone Coupling to come back into the game, and they were already at a deficit, and they were usually there because they were losing some fights they probably should have won off the back of really strange losses on their side with members going down at the wrong time.
Just going to come out the gate on a more stock standard 3-3 this time. We are mirrored between the two teams. So now we'll get to see a more honest appraisal of who comes out the better.
And this is where you expect Jupiter to be just a little bit more experienced in this particular matchup. The Cyclone Coupling with new members like a new main tank might be a little sketchy.
This is so far just the kind of standard pitched battle, the war of attrition. Maybe someone goes down, maybe not. It's actually Luca who goes down, and yeah, that brand new main tank. It's a little bit of a tough break, but that is Jupiter with the numbers advantage on the points.
You can see on the left side as well the high ground control from Jupiter. Both teams were sort of fighting for it. Jupiter were definitely winning out in that. Ryu finds an angle to get some extra damage, and Luca's caught. He's trying to keep his own shield up. The healing's not quite enough. Jupiter senses the weakness. They push into him. They get that one kill and they get the cap.
Saving grace with Cyclone Coupling didn't give up any more kills, which means Jupiter are only barely leading them in ultimates. And that could mean Cyclone Coupling still come in here with a decent chance, but it's only a small one, I feel.
And Jackie should be rallying about now because they want to be pushing in as soon as they can with anything they can. Transcendence rushing as well.
Yeah, that was because Luca got very, very low, and they did actually outpace Savagod with that, but now Savagod can commit his. That is a decent eat as well. Ken Mohororo. As Eternal not going to get much with his own self-destruct, and now Cyclone Coupling starting to get a little bit low. Xiaoji going to commit in a Graviton Surge, but Sound Barrier is the answer, and now Cyclone Coupling starting to lose those members. The war of attrition comes to a close, and it turns out Cyclone took a lot more casualties.
And the thing about these kind of fights is both teams throwing in ultimates in response to the other. The next turn would have been Luca with the Earth Shatter, but once again, Cyclone Coupling at that turn, at that point in the game, after all the defensive ults have been thrown and after the grabs are used as well, they couldn't keep that main tank up alive again. And Jupiter, they push in, they take Luca down, take the Earth Shatter off the table. Now we're 65% in terms of progress, and Cyclone Coupling still just have that one to work with, waiting for some support ults as well.
This is starting to look a little bit more one-sided. Xiaoji takes a big chunk. The shield.
Stunned.
Oh,
wow.
That's so rough. Completely cancels out Luca, and with so much charge in the pocket, Ryu has no trouble finishing him off before the Transcendence would have saved him. That's a good counter trade, though, to take out Samurai D, but this is going to be a lot of damage to have to deal with. Doesn't find anything. Now Cyclone Coupling, though, don't have any other ultimates to work with. Jupiter still just running on the last little bit of that Transcendence.
Cyclone Coupling are barely staying alive right now. Finally, someone goes down with the DMAG, but Luca's back into the fight, so they can continue. Ryu down as well.
Not back in for longer. That's a little bit of a tough break, but good catch on Samurai D. So again, that main tank kill is largely answered for Ken Mohororo D-Max, and Cyclone Coupling finally breathed some life into this match.
And what you see there as well, Jupiter just couldn't quite get the additional trades going. They couldn't quite get the next kill after getting Luca down. Eternal only got D-Mech towards the end there. By that time that happened, Luca comes back into the fight. Ryu's been compromised, so is Samurai D, and Cyclone Coupling have the ability to completely flip the point and the fight. And now they have ultimates to play with. They can have a little bit of momentum to carry them through for 50%, maybe 60%.
Jupiter, not a lot to work with. Nothing but time, though, and that is a decent placement on the grab. Some very good kills getting picked up, and they're all dead before the self-destruct even landed down. That's honestly pretty ideal.
It is, because you have the backup plan with the self-destruct. If things don't go well, everyone gets the charge, the ult charge off all the members caught in the grab as well. Ken Mohororo gets D-Mech, put in the baby form, slightly staggered, not a full stagger. That's probably the only mark you don't give Cyclone Coupling, but otherwise, everything else looks good. They now have an Earth Shatter again, but they need to be able to get this one off because so far, Luke has been the one going down quite early. He's getting focused, and he's not landing the Shatter.
Now that the tempo has swung somewhat in the way of Cyclone Coupling, they need to keep it that way, but that Shatter was not really how they wanted it to go.
Watching Ryu now. He's going to be the one coming up with the Graviton Surge pretty soon.
They've got the tools as well to answer anything that Cyclone coupling through at Dems. Jupiter are in good stock here. Pushing forward, Earth Shatter is decent. Not quite able to get the follow-up thanks to GCGG, but there's going to be the self-destruct layered on top of the grab. Will it pick anyone up? It gets GCGG, and with the charge kill on Red Fox, that is enough to break the walls down. Suddenly, Jupiter back in command, back in control. And again, we will get a relatively close percentage, but it will be Jupiter getting that critical fight. And should just be able to mop up these last few members right out that overtime.
Yep, that should be it now. Overtime sticking through. Not a lot of members left for Cyclone coupling. Just a bit of extra cleanup. Xiaoji there actually going to end up dying with just a Graviton Surge left to go. You could actually see for Cyclone coupling, if they had maybe extended the fight a little bit longer, if they had won that last engagement and went for another one, they would have had the next ult coming up, the next ult coming up. Could have been back-to-back 99s. They had the ability to win, but for Jupiter, losing the point kind of just one time, coming back pretty strong, retaking the point straight away to take the whole map.
And that's the thing. What they had on their side was time. You can kind of just wait it out, wait for the economy to shift back in your favor. And I mean, it doesn't just happen on its own. You do also have to play well, and they did play well. They charged up the ults, they pulled some out of Cyclone coupling that didn't have a great effect, and then, of course, won the fight when they had then given themselves that advantage. So you've really just got to hand it to Jupiter. That was pretty clean play in a 3v3 mirror matchup.
And I think this map should have been favored for Cyclone coupling when you consider team styles. And part of this comes down to the fact that on specifically Gardens and City Center, those are good maps for the Cyclone coupling DPSs. That's when you can flex Jeki onto the fire again, and it was pretty decent for the most part. But because they lose one of the maps they're supposed to win, one of the rounds rather, on Gardens, then they lose University, which is their unfavored round with an OA. So that's the one where you kind of have to play the mirror, and that's the one where you expect Jupiter to be better in the mirror. If you throw that one away as a Jupiter gimme, you go back to City Center. This should have been a 2-1 for Cyclone coupling, but they started out so poorly on Gardens that we never got to City Center.
The thing that feels even more alarming, I would say, is like Cyclone coupling have been playing a lot more 3-3 this season, as well as all the other things they are far more known for and arguably far more favored with. But at the end of the day, you look at Oasis, and they lost with both. That really doesn't bode well coming through to the rest of these maps, because we do have King's Row in here, which is one of the escort maps where you are that bit more likely to see 3-3, especially on streets. And even then, if that's getting beaten, and then also the non-3-3 is getting beaten, what do Cyclone coupling have to go on here?
Yeah, they're going to have to think about a decent amount as we're about to now head into Hybrid. But before we get into the map itself, let's go ahead and learn a little bit about how Hybrid works.
Welcome to Eichenwald. This is Hybrid. Two teams face off as either defenders or attackers. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to first capture a payload and then escort it along a set path containing 2 checkpoints. To capture the payload, the attackers need to stand within its range for a set amount of time. Defenders can delay capture progress by also standing in range. The attackers must work together to clear away the defenders. If successful, they score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby. To get moving again, the attackers must clear away the defenders by force. If even one attacker is capturing the objective or on the payload when the time runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared away or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
So there it is, Hybrid, and you got a little bit of a tease of it earlier, but it's going to be King's Row once again. And going on to this map, once you get past that A point, we're going to be probably seeing a decent amount of 3-3. So if you are Cyclone coupling here, I'd have to say you need a lot of work done on that A point primarily before we get anything done on B and C to really set the stage for what could happen later on.
One of the things I find a little bit alarming is Xiaoji as well on the Sombra. Like, even when they're running that within that kind of shell of 3-3, that is pretty common in its own right. And Xiaoji's Sombra was very effective last week. We did question, though, whether against other teams that were able to deal with that a little bit better, it might not get the same mileage. And I dare say so far it has not got that same mileage. So I don't even know if CYC can bank on even that right now. I'm a little worried for this team at this particular moment. Like a concerned parent.
The other thing that is something to be really considering right now is on the Jupiter side, you have Carroll over the past 3 weeks playing the Zarya, and it's, to be fair, from the outside at least looking like a pretty decent Zarya. Now he's back on the Diva, Ryu's actually on the Zarya instead, so something identified within the Jupiter lineup themselves to say, these two guys need to make a swap.
Dare say so far it has worked nicely, but we'll have to see if it continues to get the current mileage that it has. Kenma Hororo Zarya was pretty damn good. Both teams on that largely 3-3 based team comp with Xiaoji back on the Sombra.
And I think for Xiaoji right now, finding the correct angle, getting that opening hack is going to give the advantage that Cyclone Coupling need.
Well, it's not going to be an opening hack, it's going to be an opening stun on Luca. The hack on Kenma Hororo does allow them to demech him though, so that's a sort of half trade there, but I mean, look at Jupiter. They're the ones controlling the point, even in losing Savagod. Only just now with Cyclone Coupling really pushing them back off after 2 ticks have already been gained.
And this is where Cyclone Coupling can win the fight finally, especially with Ryu getting down as well. Anakin's been hacked.
Still picks up Eternal though. That's actually a little bit alarming because the rest of Jupiter might be able to retreat. Samurai D might be a little overextended, but they've got the closer respawn.
And you can see the reason why Cyclone Coupling even were able to hold here is, despite the fact that they lose one of their sort of more important roles for a less important role, you never really want to trade the Ryan for a Diva. They then got the kill on the Savagod as well, but they got it late enough that 2 ticks were already in play.
Oh, that's a bit of an awkward Earth Shatter. They're still able to pick up Eternal though, and that's another big start. EMP comes out. That's the one they've been looking for. Plus the stun onto Samurai D means he is absolutely gone for. Kenma Hororo going to drop, and the rest of these members really, oh, that's a late Transcendence from Savagod trying to capitalize on Luca's death, but Claire had just died, and a lot of these other members are still just respawning now.
And I think if Savagod wants to use the Transcendence there, Jupiter need to bait the counter Transcendence out from TTY, but that's just not going to happen this time around. You can sort of see that after 2 members go down from Jupiter, and then Claire gets hacked as well, really, you don't want to be throwing more ults in, but they did.
What's done is done, I suppose. Cyclone Coupling nearly gave that point away, but stun coming in. Luca a little bit surrounded here, but Transcendence is going to come to the rescue. Now, Jupiter, ooh, nice save on Samurai D with the sound barrier. A lot of S's in my sentences there. Shadow to come out now, another S for the boot. That's the first casualty, is unfortunately Jack.
Big hack.
Yeah, it's got to be the one to turn it around, but even now they're struggling because they did not catch Savagod in it.
You can see there as well, just really fast recharge on the Transcendence ult from Savagod. This should now be a pretty decent cleanup. Ryu's high energy, high-ish energy. Cyclone Coupling members going down super quickly.
Yeah, and the real heartbreaker there, because they were spiting that entire time at about 94%, Cyclone Coupling dying at the time they did meant the cap went through instantaneously. They get no opportunity to set up a defense by the archway.
And the line of play that you have to focus on is specifically because Luca got ragdolled around, got really low, and they needed to keep their main tank alive. TTY uses Transcendence to save him, but because he does that, Ryu sees the golden opportunity to get a free grab out there. No more Transcendence in the way, and Jupiter start pulling ahead with ultimate value, and suddenly Cyclone Coupling don't have the correct responses. Earth Shatter doesn't do a lot for them either because they couldn't get any kills off it. Suddenly then they lose the point.
Cyclone Coupling is still kind of in a bit of a rebuild phase with their ultimates. Arguably Jupiter are too, but they're leading in a lot of critical places.
That hack should actually signal Jupiter to maybe back out a little bit.
Yeah, and no hesitation on Cyclone Coupling to go in, but that Shatter didn't really get the connection they wanted, and Luca ends up overextended. So now the shoe's on the other foot, the momentum swings the other way. TTY kind of forced to use that Transcendence now that that's run out. Again, Jupiter just keeping up the pressure here, and that's with ultimates coming up. A huge EMP walking right into that one. Xiaoji does go down. Where's this follow-up damage with Luca dead? They're struggling to get it out, and that means Jupiter are going to weather the storm.
I think Cyclone Coupling were already backpedaling as the EMP came through. Now this is going to be Ryu cleaning things up.
Double grab to come out from both Zaryas. Luca again, casualty in the fight. Savagod had himself a Transcendence where TTY did not, and the payload's just kind of casually rolling through to the cap while the fight was still going on. Bit of a ball drop there for Cyclone Coupling.
Who, by the way, never really found the fight they were looking for. The initial hack onto Claire, you expect a little bit more aggression out of Cyclone Coupling. Jupiter maybe starting to back out just a little bit to sort of receive that fight coming in, but Cyclone Coupling never really find the opportunity to get that shatter in, or maybe perhaps even Transcendence rushing Jupiter. And suddenly now we're on to see after what was basically a bit of a non-compete on that last B defense.
And that's the thing, Cyclone Coupling, there has been no line in the sand so far. Even when they've entrenched up and taken a fight, they've not found much success. It's always been a rolling fight and one that they've eventually lost.
So this is now an opportunity where Jupiter don't have a lot to go on. Cyclone Coupling, Xiaoji nearly on that EMP. In fact, they'll probably win this without it.
Yeah, that's a really huge couple of pickups there. Getting Samurai D out the gate was one thing, but Cyclone Coupling, for once, really seemed like they knew when to press the go button, and it does pay off for them.
And it's a safe place to get aggressive as well, because you know that if things go a little bit poorly, you have the ult advantage, you can really pressure the other team, and Jupiter in that space were just looking to get ultimates out of Cyclone Coupling. The only one they get is a rally, and that's the lowest value one that you can get out of the opponent's team. And right now, they've got to play up against the full 5 of the others.
Xiaoji going to take some pain, though. No sneaky EMP this time around. Jupiter still have a lot of work to do to get back in possession of this cart, though.
Cyclone Coupling actually need to wait for Jupiter to push a little bit, because you want to have a good engage here. You want to catch Sabagod. You don't.
Yeah, that's a little bit rough. That's the second time that has been a big difference maker. But now Grav going to come out. Claire can channel a sound barrier to try and protect them through that one. And so far, nothing has really been gained by Cyclone Coupling. Self-destruct gets nothing though in return for Jupiter, who are now starting to feel free to use their ultimates, given that Cyclone Coupling have committed a lot of their own. First trade kill in. It's going to be a grab as well, but no one to really follow up on it, so no ground gain.
Oh, Samurai D.
Oh, that's a real boo-boo, that charge. And even as they finally move the cart just a tiny little bit, they don't actually have the members to sustain it with that loss of Samurai D. Good boop onto Luca. Cyclone Coupling are kind of resetting here.
And that's because with Luca down as well, both teams very even in the Rhine department, but Samurai D comes back just a little bit quicker. As Cyclone Coupling are now going to regroup, they have EMP, they already used Graviton Surge.
Yeah, that's a good chunk of kills though. The early one onto Claire. Ken Mahororo ends up taking a dive. Never quite got back in the mech. Hack on Samurai D to ensure he gets finished off. And in that whole prolonged engage, even with the reset there from Cyclone Coupling, the cart didn't really gain ground.
And that came probably a little bit too close for Cyclone Coupling's liking, because they had a huge ult advantage, still really had a shaky fight, didn't really win it cleanly, didn't really get to rotate into the other important ultimates. Jupiter used everything there as well, but now it's 2-0 instead of a 5-1. And it's a no EMP. It's a cancelled EMP.
That is about as rough as it gets. Anakin absolutely on point with that target prioritization, and now Cyclone Coupling, they know they have to just give space.
That's unfortunate. That's probably the worst thing to see if you are running a Sombra, if you have a Sombra on their team. And now all the big advantages, all the big tools for Cyclone Coupling suddenly gone. We were relying back on the Shatter, and so far, Shatter has not been paying dividends for this team.
I mean, it says a lot, right? You can have a huge fight and the cart makes no progress, but then you kill one person at the right time and suddenly you're back underway. Now both teams full 6 versus 6, but EMP still a little way away.
A full rotation from both teams. Jupiter on the defensive side. Cyclone Coupling look like they're attacking, but Jupiter going in.
Yeah, just kind of lobbing that one forward, but a Turtle unfortunately going down as he threw out a Graviton Surge. Just a little bit rough, and oh man. That's a heartbreaker.
That's a little bit rough.
Yeah, both teams ended up just fully turning about each other, and Cyclone Coupling dropping the ball a little bit on playing to the objective.
And I think that's the kind of risk you take as well when you swap sides as defenders and attackers, is the fact that attackers actually have the side of the cart where you are going to finish the game. And if they suddenly get control of the cart, which they eventually did, they just push it to the finish line. The grab from Ryu as well, locking up the rest of Cyclone Coupling to make sure they couldn't contest. You can see the final moments here as well.
So this is kind of where it all plays out. Jupiter have already moved forward because they had to avoid a self-destruct. They fully rotate. Cyclone Coupling start backing up. They still are forcing Jupiter to fight away from the cart. This is good. This is where it starts to go bad, though. You'll see Eternal soon is going to throw out a Graviton Surge. Yeah, so here's that self-destruct. It gives Jupiter the space to get onto the cart. Eternal throws out a Graviton Surge that they can't really follow up on. And now the two teams are completely swapped sides because, as you mentioned, Claire was able to get on that payload away from the fight, away from the grab, and away from anything or anyone that could stop the cat.
And it's like Jupiter just took possession of the objective there, and while the rest of the members were kind of engaged in their melee, Claire's just like, well, I'm taking this to the finish line, baby.
It's like the end of Train Spotting. While everyone's sleeping, the main guy just wakes up and steals all the money. And that's Claire right now.
It did feel like a bit of a steal, because I go as far as to say that with 24 seconds remaining on the time bank, Jupiter probably don't get that one with time remaining.
Yeah.
If that quote-unquote back cap doesn't happen. So good timing on that regard. 3-3 now back up for Jupiter. Cyclone coupling. Same again, going to be starting out with the Sombra. I do say, though, attacking Sombra for this is much better than defending Sombra.
We'll have to see if it actually pays off, though. Of course, a couple of priority targets have been missed so far by Xiaoji. The right-click hacks have been relatively good, though.
And it needs to come at a time where your team also wants to be able to move in, and just waiting for Xiaoji to get a good flank. He's been spotted already, which means instant translocate out, which means a bit of a reset in their attack, and Cyclone Company have to wait again for the flank.
I do like Cyclone Couplings trying to apply pressure when they see Kenma Hororo move up to the side on the high grounds, but they can't actually go too far forward with it because they do end up taking too much damage if they do.
Yeah, they nearly got Jackie down though, so it was kind of worth it, but they couldn't quite find a member, so now they're fully backed up. This is ideal for Cyclone Company, who nearly have an EMP now. The more room you get as a Sombra to play with, the better it is. Here he goes.
Yeah, that's already Ryu down, and finally they catch the priority members, all 5 of the remaining folks. Sabagod is the first death there. That is your highest priority target, and he was close-ish to a Transcendence. Now Cyclone Coupling still just cleaning up the last few of these kills. Feels like just a bit of a mop-up at this juncture.
And it's going to be Jupiter, barely staggered out if they're not too careful. Sound Barrier's going to catch a few.
They do have an Earth Shatter to work with soon if Samurai D doesn't die before this hack runs out. Oh, it ran out and then he got stunned, so still wasn't able to commit it, and Jupiter weren't quite on the point of the right moment there. So this is very similar to what happened to Cyclone Coupling. The fight starting to finish off as the percentage of the cap was already high, and Jupiter getting routed.
And they got to be careful as well. This could be a big punish if they don't have Claire by their side to get them all to safety. If they lose more members here, it just turns sour much more quickly for that team. And so for Jupiter right now, taking a risk, not really paying off for them. Cyclone Coupling finding the positioning around the cap. They get on the cap itself. EMP's ready to go. Everything lines up this time perfectly, when on the defense, it was kind of just lining up all wrong.
Jupiter do have a good chunk of ultimates, though, at their disposal. That's already one committed by Sabagod. Cyclone Coupling still have a lot that they can cycle through. Shatter from Samurai D. Not the hottest, only really got one on the back, but there's a huge EMP. And that was with Amiket already dead, so there is no stun threat on Xiaoji anyway. That is going to be a full team wipe. The highest efficiency play you can get.
Yep, and on all the correct members, the remaining 5 members, including the one with the Graviton Surge, Ryu, if he gets the opportunity to use that, if the EMP is not available at that point, Jupiter probably find a way to turn things back around. But now B is very much under pressure. Jupiter still have to rally behind and get to this defense. Cyclone Coupling holding super forward. Eyes on the ult charge for Xiaoji once again, because he got that second EMP very quick.
After a shaky Oasis and an arguably shaky first half, Xiaoji is now 2 for 2, landing EMPs on priority targets. Now the brawl breaks out around the point B cap. Xiaoji takes some big chunks just to back right away, but backing away actually puts him in behind the enemy team. So while that's all going on, Jupiter go, we'll take a 6 versus 5. Thank you very much. Jackie down, Luca down as well. And the numbers, the math, it just checks out. Jupiter continuing to hold a numbers advantage, and Xiaoji still no way out without really dying here.
And a really big problem is because he translocated out on 15 HP, knowing that Cyclone Coupling probably lose that fight, their goal is to challenge as much EMP as possible. They started about 45-ish when he translocated out. He's only got about 62 now. That's not nearly enough based on that line of play. They had to lose an entire fight just to get about 20% ult charge. It's not really ideal for this team, and now Jupiter are definitely digging their heels in. 3 ults ready to go, nearly 4. It's going to be hard to break.
Xiaoji did stay alive though, and he has started to get a little bit closer. They would have ideally had the EMP at the start of this fight, but you've got to work with what you've got. Jupiter, speaking of, are the ones with a lot of ultimates to cycle through. First going to be a grab out of Eternal. That's all they've got to work with, and it's enough so far, despite Sabagod's Transcendence. The rest of Jupiter are now in full retreat here. Kenma Hororo going to be the last casualty on the payload. That's going to be a cap coming through.
And this is what you need if you're a team like Cyclone Coupling. Multiple threats that can win the game for you. What you see there as well, Samurai D goes in for the Earth Shatter, gets denied. Eternal finds the angle on the grab, gets Samurai D down. Yes, Sabagod used the Transcendence, didn't really matter at the end of the day. Here comes the EMP though. This is what they got to save from that last fight that they now can use to maybe cap this point.
That's the thing, now they've got it, and arguably at an even better time. This time they don't even have to catch certain members. If you didn't want to catch someone though, you would have liked to have caught Claire. Bit of a shame to miss that one. Means the sound barrier buys
big one.
Time. Nice shadow though. Can they follow that one up? Big bump back on Ryu. He stays alive, but Kenma Hororo not quite so lucky. Cyclone coupling, keeping the pressure on, marching forward, keeping Jupiter boxed up, and eventually they start to break as the kills come in. They are routed right back to the spawn gates and still losing members even there as the cart continues its inexorable march.
The best part is double support ultimates available for Cyclone coupling, Graviton Surge as well.
Self-destruct lane in, not going to find anything. There's going to be a double grab to come out. Kenma Hororo is going to be the one to die. Ryu now following him to the grave. Sound barrier for Cyclone coupling to give them extra time in the fight after Transcendence had run out. And this nano boost is not going to be enough to save the day. Jupiter, it's a lot more time on the clock for Cyclone coupling.
Sabergod actually, Claire must have gotten in the way because that was a boostio right towards the end there. I was looking for who exactly received it. I'm expecting it to go on Samurai D, who's playing the Hammond, which would have been the ideal target. He didn't get it. He went down. Claire's running around the edge with this nano boost like, what am I doing with this? And everything goes so poorly for Jupiter right at the 11th hour, and everything goes so well for Cyclone coupling. And it's a bit of a snowball momentum from where we saw that B point basically transition into that C point where they capped things out. Yeah, they had to sacrifice, trying to charge some ult, trying to charge some EMP there, but then that pick onto Samurai D as they're rolling into C, Graviton Surge from Eternal, Jupiter kind of whiffing a bunch of ults there. Xiaoji then getting the EMP in that fight as they're winning, not having to use it because they won that fight, and then getting to use it partway through the end of C to get the game-winning push. That is everything lining up exactly how you want it to go for Cyclone coupling, and even better because you get to save the EMP for the game-winning plays.
That's the thing, Cyclone coupling, just a much more efficient ultimate economy. And that really set the tone for that offense. Jupiter are now thanking their lucky stars that they had a couple of seconds when they capped out, otherwise they would be only defending here. They at least get one last opportunity to attack and set a good distance.
One thing I'm not going to be able to agree with is Sabergod changing onto Ana, just by the way, because Zen with the Transcendence is what you need to counter out the EMP. With only clear sound barrier, it's not quite good enough. Now he is going to be playing the Zen to start with, but it's going to have to be a very good attack. They've got less than 1 minute.
That's the thing, Jupiter, they've only really got the one shot at this hack on Ryu. He goes down. That's not a hot start. They've got just enough time if they lose this fight to reset quickly. But there needs to be quickly. Anakin down. Kenma Hororo D-Max will probably just have to... Oh no, he's going to go ahead and die. Otherwise, he would have had to walk back to spawn, swap off, and swap back on. Just under 30 seconds to go.
And this is the only losable fight for Jupiter. Out of 1 minute, you can expect 2 engages, 2 attempts. 1 attempt is now off the table. Xiaoji's been so efficient with the ult charge, 82%. You can see as Jupiter's backing out, he's maximizing on damage, and now he's got the EMP.
Man, and that's with Jupiter just eating some bullet spray on the way to the point for what is their final approach. Let's see if they're cleared for landing now. Trying to muscle onto the point. EMP will be coming in from behind. Absolutely huge! The only person that didn't get was Samurai D, and he ate a stun on the front line from Jackie. Jupiter dropping completely and utterly in that last attack there. 2 for 2 on the defense for Cyclone coupling, and now with 3 minutes and 21 seconds, a full 3-2-1, they need only get 1/3.
And we said maybe this map was going to be hard for Cyclone coupling. They disagree, quite frankly, because the Sombra plays here, Xiaoji finding the angles, the way they're logistically traversing the geometry here has been absolutely fantastic, and in a way where Jupiter's been finding it very difficult to respond. And again, I have to go back to the notion of the fact that time bank is one thing here, and I'll explain the Ana pick from Sabergod a little bit. The reason you pick the Ana is because there's no Diva on the side of Cyclone coupling. That's the one weakness. You can notice that one part of the Cyclone coupling lineup with the composition that is not strong is when there is Transcendence available and you're using the Graviton Surge, guess what? You don't have self-destruct. That's usually the counter to the Transcendence. However, you do have the EMP for every other important moment. But if then the Zenyatta play on the other team goes to Ana to sort of, hey, I can play this character because there's no Diva countering me, you don't need to worry about the Transcendence. It's like a free gimme. It's like a free win for Cyclone coupling, and they're ready to gobble that up.
Now, it's served up hot and fresh, arguably handed to them on a platter right now. I definitely wouldn't count Jupiter out, though. An ironclad defense could still take this to the draw. And because they won Oasis, that would actually maintain Jupiter's lead in the series. But it's going to be a tall order. And because it's only a first point, Cyclone coupling can potentially flex onto the Pharaoh. Looks like they don't want to, but it is an option.
I think they don't need to take the risk here because, surprisingly for this team, the Pharaoh has been working less and less. And guess what? This composition with the Sombra has been working more and more. You don't need to fix what ain't broke, and Jackie's finding the stuns as well, so why not?
That's the thing. Jackie's stun targets have been absolutely phenomenal. The conversion rate on those stuns as well been pretty damn high.
Jupiter are only looking for a draw here. That's the best result they can possibly go for. Xiaoji on the high ground should be looking for a decent hack target. Gets engaged on by Hororo though, so that's important.
Oh, but that does make him a hack target. He was already on about half health when that came through, so now working overtime to keep him alive. Shifting the pain a little bit onto Samurai D, and this is ground they have the seed.
And more seeded ground means more area to play for if you are the Sombra. And look at the ult charges flying up. D-Mech as well.
Yeah, eventually the pressure's starting to become insurmountable. Jupiter know they've got to just kind of commit here.
This is it.
And it's not in a favorable situation. They've already lost the main tank. It's going to be a Transcendence to keep Cyclone coupling in the fight with plenty of room to spare. Hack onto Ryu, even though that grab came up, he could not commit it. And it all starts to fall apart for Jupiter. Transcendence out of Sabagod, just keeping himself alive. Really, it wasn't enough to save Anakin, wasn't enough to save Claire, and now it's not going to be enough to save this point. Cyclone coupling are going to tie us up.
Clean, very clean. There's not much more I can say about that.
Cyclone coupling.
Cyclone coupling right there.
That does sound like a spray and white kind of thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's true, because it's a couple, you get both of them. But what you do see here is, towards the end, I do also want to highlight, look, I feel bad for Hororo because as the D.Va player, you are like the most important member to really, I say shut down Sombra, but really just annoy the Sombra, to push him away, deal a bunch of damage to him, stop him from hacking targets. As soon as he gets DMA'd, guess what? Look at Xiaoji, completely unopposed, sitting on high ground, doing whatever he damn pleases. And then at that point in the game, it's kind of over. At that point in the game, Cyclone coupling have to throw the game to really not win. And look, when they do that, it's on Oasis, and it's when they're playing Fire, strangely. So when they're playing this comp, when they're supposed to win, they are winning.
And they actually look pretty threatening there as well. I mentioned it sort of partway through. Xiaoji, after a bit of a lackluster Oasis and a mediocre first half of Kings Row, really started to come alive. Just both the hack targets that he was getting with the right click, and then of course the follow up on those, and then also how much better his EMPs got. Like the only one I could almost fault him on that attack was when he didn't catch Claire, and even then it didn't make the difference because they were in such a favorable position with all the other members hacked out that it didn't matter.
And I have like a kind of map-based analysis for this, and part of the reason is you look at when you run it with the Farah, a lot of the focus goes onto the Farah. Also, your team's not engaging, right? So the difference is when you're playing the Ryan and Ryan bashing into each other, a lot of the focus is on that specific brawl, so less focus on the Sombra. When your Farah's poking from the edge, your Winston doesn't want to go in because that's not really what you want to be doing. The Sombra goes in, has to try and find a hack, and all of Jupiter turn around like, you're gone, you're done. When you go to Oasis, you are playing more of the GOATs, but Oasis, University doesn't have the same angles, doesn't have the same geometry. You're not going to find the same targeting or the same high ground. Think about what high ground exists on University. Basically not a lot, nothing really.
There's a little bit up on the side.
And that's why you go to Kings Row and suddenly the entire playground is opened up and he's in the sandpit doing whatever he wants. And that's the big difference. So I think a lot of the performance-based issue we're talking about here is like, what happened with the Sombra? It's like, I think Oasis in general, coupled with the fact that they were playing a specific comp that doesn't draw attention away from him, also then on map geometry that doesn't favor Sombra, it didn't work.
And now we go into a situation, we move into Horizon Lunar Colony, where a lot of these options are kind of still available for Cyclone coupling. As much as it's tied up, it does feel like all of a sudden Jupiter are the team on the back foot.
And that means they do have to start looking to bounce back going into maps 3 and 4. There's a lot to work on here. 1-1 apiece right now, and it feels like Cyclone coupling are getting a lot of momentum. We'll have to see if that momentum can continue right after this break.